this is the story of how a random passage in a random book led me down a rabbit hole that inspired me to start my whole education over from the beginning. It even got me enthusiastic about math, which before this was about as likely as the sudden appearance of the hologram of a mythical creature. See, because I'm 37 years old and I quit math in high school. I rage quit math in high school. So that was a high school. Now, fast forward 20 years. That's right. I started counting at 8. Why? Because I can. Because it's a free country. But also because there are just as many units between 8 and 7 as there are between 1 and 20. Now, whether you agree with me there, or whether you think I'm just a muddle-headed philosopher talking about things I don't know anything about, might depend on whether or not you tend to think of 20 as this dot right here, or as all of these dots together. See, circular thinking gets a bad rap, but I digress. Back to my story. So one day I picked up a random book and I'm flipping through the pages, and that's when this guy walks into my life. Look at him. He looks just as angry as I was. It's because this guy spent his whole life struggling with the fact that verbal language is rigged against certain kinds of thinking. So I'm going to read the passage that sent me down all those rabbit holes. Because I figure if it resonated with me, then who knows, maybe it will resonate with someone else. But first, an observation. Isn't it interesting how the words resonate and articulate have different grammars? I can articulate something, like I articulate these words, but I can't resonate something. Resonation is something that happens to me. It's as if articulation was assertive and resonation was passive. I can't even ever recall using the word resonation. I half wonder if that's because resonation sounds so much like resignation. Anyway, back to the passage. I just took some apples out of a paper bag where they had been lying for a long time. I had to cut off half of many of them and throw it away. Afterwards, when I was copying out a sentence I had written, the second half of which was bad, I at once saw it as a half-rotten apple. And that's how it always is with me. Everything that comes my way becomes a picture for me of what I'm thinking about at the time. Is there something feminine about this way of thinking? Is there something feminine about this way of thinking? What does circularity, grammar, and femininity have to do with math? Probably lots of things. The point is that all concepts are related to other concepts in some way or another. For example, Pythagoras thought that these concepts are related to each other as opposites. You see, Pythagoras gave us more than a squared plus b squared equals c squared. He had a whole metaphysical framework that is still with us today. The interesting thing about Pythagoras is that he thought of numbers as though they are things, or rather, he thought that all things are numbers. So the most that math could ever be under a Pythagorean framework is a catalog of common relationships between numbers. But math is more than that. What if we forget about the numbers and just focus on the relationships? Then math becomes about discovering relationships that can then be used to translate from one relationship to another. So breaking free from the Pythagorean framework gives math life. It makes it less rigid and more fluid and concept-based. That's my opinion, but I think that Galileo would also be in my camp. So I'm going to end with what Galileo thought of Pythagoras. In order to prevent the things they admired from being exposed to the slander and scorn of the common people, the Pythagoreans condemned as sacrilegious the publication of the most hidden properties of numbers, or of the incommensurable and irrational quantities which they investigated. Therefore, I believe that some one of them, just to satisfy the common sort and free himself from their inquisitiveness, gave it out that the mysteries of numbers were those trifles which later spread among the vulgar. Such astuteness and prudence remind one of the wise young man who, in order to stop the importunity of his mother or his inquisitive wife, I can't remember which, who pressed him to impart the secrets of the Senate, made up some story which afterwards caused her and many other women to be the laughingstock of the same Senate.